تهیه و تنظیم در استودیو بیزرایز.
Airlines to customers who are looking to travel. And in the end, their net profit is actually higher than the airlines and hotels themselves. Uber does the exact same thing. It connects drivers to people who need a way of transport without owning any cars or drivers. Airbnb doesn't own any houses or apartments. Alibaba doesn't have any stock. Even TikTok, one of the biggest content production apps, doesn't produce any content. The content creators do that for them. All these businesses are simply arbitraging supply and demand. They find customers with a problem and connect them to a solution, all under their brand so they can have a solid markup on their services. And what we do is the exact same thing through what I call contractor arbitrage. We simply find contractors to do great and inexpensive work for us. And that's exactly how Jordan is making $7,500 a week and planning to scale up to $50,000 a month in the next few months. So what we do is we sell ROI marketing services to local businesses or small online e-commerce brands and get someone else to fulfill it for us. And we make from $1,500 to $10,000 per month per client for it. And that is why this opportunity is for anyone with no prior experience or skill. Now, Nicholas is the perfect example, making more money in 48 hours than he did working 2 months at his day job. And that's why this is the perfect beginner-friendly business, because you don't have to deal with inventory or shipping. You don't have to make hundreds of sales to make a decent income. You don't have to invest thousands to get the business running, and someone else takes care of the fulfillment for you. So let me actually show you how to start making money with your own ROI marketing agency through our 4-step plug-and-play system. I like to call it the 4 steps to $10,000 a month agency in the next 90 days. And here's what we do. Number 1, setup. Number 2, pick. Number 3, arbitrate. And number 4, reach out. And when you execute this process correctly, you should be able to get 3 to 4 new clients per month. Now at $2,000 a month each, that's $6,000 to $8,000 in new monthly recurring revenue each month. That's $72,000 a year on the lower end and $96,000 a year on the higher end. And remember that with each new client, this result compounds. Now, to make this much in a regular job takes a lot of qualifications, decades of work experience, and slave-like hours. Now, when you start an agency business, $100,000 a year is the norm. So let's talk about step number 1, setup. Now, here's basically where you get to choose the name of your agency. And all I can say is don't overthink it. I mean, all you need to do is look at my agency, IG Media, which makes no sense. I started my agency 5.5 years ago, and at first, for the first 2-ish years, it was a creative agency. So we were actually shooting content, social media stuff for our clients. But for the past 3.5 years, we have been exclusively advertising only. So my own name doesn't even make sense. Yet I have no issues pulling in over 7 figures a year from my agency. So really all I can say is just pick one and roll with that. Now the next step is to buy the domain for your agency's name and set up your business email. And that's pretty much all the startup costs you're gonna have. Now, the reason you want a business domain is that way when you're reaching out to clients through email, you want it to look as professional as possible. So no @Gmails or @Hotmails here. In fact, you don't even need to build a website for your agency in order to get started. Back in 2017, I scaled to $15,000 a month with no website for my agency. And there you go. The first step is done. Now, the second step is to pick a niche and a service. And this step is super, super important because when you get this right, you'll get clients 10 times as easy. There's a few questions you have to ask yourself here. The first is your client making at least $10,000 a month already? Now, the reason this is important is if you try to work in a niche where businesses make on average less than $10,000 a month, realistically, they won't be able to pay for your fee. For example, piano teachers, tennis instructors, and small restaurants. Those are all bad niches to work with because they don't have much money, so the math never really works in their favor. Examples of good niches would be real estate agents, solar panel companies, successful offline stores looking to move online, e-commerce brands, law firms, pool installation services. The list goes on and on. Notice those are all businesses that have on average high revenue numbers and especially high average order value, which is basically the value customers pay them per transaction on average. Because this way, you only have to bring them a handful of new deals each month for them to get a return on investment on your service fee. I'll give you an example. An in-ground pool installation costs, on average, $35,000. So if you're charging them $5,000 a month and you manage to get them 1 to 2 new clients per month, they will be making a 7 to 14x return on the amount they're paying you. The second question you need to ask yourself is, do you understand the mechanics of this niche? Now, let me tell you what I mean by this question and why it's so important by telling you the story of how I picked my accountant. When I was looking for an accountant around 4 years ago, I had a ton of different options. Now, these are all good accountants, but when I explained what I did and the payment processes that I use, they just went, all right, cool. Now, at the end of the day, I had an online marketing agency, very progressive, so a lot of them just stared at me because they simply had no idea what I was talking about. Now, when I went to the accountant that I'm actually working with, after hearing what I did, they said, awesome, do you guys run Facebook ads or SEO? And then they said stuff like, I'm assuming you use Stripe. And then they went on to talk about the best practices for online service-based businesses. Then of course, I went for that accountant because they understood my business model and spoke my language. Now that's the exact same experience Michael had. He posted in our private community that in his first month, he managed to sign 5 paying clients out of 8 sales calls he had. In his own words, my biggest advice would be to choose a niche that you're familiar with and can speak the language. It helps build trust so well, which leads to sales. And when you stick to one niche, it'll be easier to create processes and systems that streamline your whole agency. So whenever you sign a new client, it's just a matter of running them through this plug and play system you've built. Now, it is okay to experiment a bit with different niches at first, but once you find one that works for you, stick to it. Now, the next thing is service. The key to choosing a service to offer to these clients is picking an ROI service. Now, what is that? It is simply a service that you can track a clear return on investment generated from it for the client. It is result-based or revenue-driven. So here's a few examples. Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, email marketing, content creation, copywriting, SEO, Instagram growth, web development, marketing automation, just to name a few. And I can tell you that inside of the Grow Your Agency community, which is my education company, for every one of those services, there are people making $30,000 a month and beyond with them. Just like Ben, who got himself a brand new BMW with the profits from his agency services. So for whatever service you offer, you can scale it up and make it work. Now let me actually show you how to get your ROI.
تهیه و تنظیم در استدیو بیزرایز.